Hey YouTube, it's Brian here. This is going to be my top 10 favorite TV shows, mostly in the realm of fiction and animation. So let's get to the list. There's a lot to talk about. Thanks for tuning in. Number one is going to be an animated series. It's going to be actually X Men, the animated series from the 1990s. Boy, am I glad I was a kid when this came on, because I loved replaying this over and over and over again on VHS when I was a little kid and watching Gambit and Wolverine and everybody fight the Sentinels. That was always my favorite. But yeah, this was probably, in my opinion, Marvel's best adaptation to the screen. At least it's got to be in the top five. Number five uh, is probably my favorite sitcom, although it kind of tailed off after they tried to introduce that annoying character Seven. It's that show Married with Children, starring Ed O'Neill as Al Bundy. A cynical father who gets disrespected by his family at every turn and doesn't seem to be appreciated. I think that it's an easy show to relate to. Even though all the characters are kind of mean to each other, there's just the right of humanity in each one in this show. Um, there's the right amount of humanity in each character to make them all able to be related to, you know? Number three on here is going to be Futurama. I always thought it was a cool idea to have a guy go forward 1,000 years to New York in the future and see what had changed about humanity and what had stayed the same. You know that certain little things about humanity would have evolved over time, but at the same time, you know there's those little quirks that would remain the same and would never change. Uh, and I think that's what makes the show able to. It makes it so we can see ourselves in it, even though it's supposed to be set so far in the future, you know? Number five is probably the darkest show on this list. It's the black comedy It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, about a group of cynical friends, all of whom are quite mean to each other and have a almost sociopathic sense of humor. All of them run a bar in Philadelphia. It also has Danny DeVito in it. My favorite character on this show, though, has to be Charlie. I think that this show uh, goes into the realm of disturbing sometimes, but there's characters on here that are just so so unique and so hilarious, like the McPoyle family, for instance, um, or Cricket. You know, there's so many people on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that are completely unique. Um, it's a really, really dark show, and it can be kind of depressing or kind of downright evil almost. But it's always funny throughout it all. Number six is going to be a much more innocent show meant for a way younger audience. That's Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's from like Nickelodeon as opposed to everything I just said about the last show. You know, this show I also liked the follow up to it, which was The Legend of Korra. But I felt like Aang had more personality as a character, and I liked the whole romance throughout it all. Anyways, yeah, let's move on to the next show, which is Seinfeld, the show about nothing. My favorite scene from this show was always the "I'm an eggplant, Jerry" scene. Um, yeah, Seinfeld is one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. It had a completely unique sense of humor. Next up is the Zach Braff creation Scrubs, a comedy about a bunch of medical interns and their evolution to becoming eventually like teachers at a teaching hospital. The last season of this show kind of sucked, um, but It was a really good show throughout it all, and I always liked, Turk, and I always liked Elliot. There was a lot of good characters on this show. Next up is going to be South Park. I always thought this show did great impressions of celebrities, and it also was great at parodying what was going on in society with more balls than any other show seemingly had anymore. Number 10 on here is going to be uh, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air from the earlier career of Will Smith. I thought this was one of the best sitcoms of the early '90s, and I loved his transition from living kind of in the ghetto uh, to living in a rich suburban area, and just kind of the transition that made for his character. It was a really interesting show, and I thought it was impressive that it was all done live. Anyways, these are my favorite shows, mostly from the realm of fiction and animation. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. I love you guys. I'm out.